The intermediate level of Tekken is probably the most difficult space to navigate. I think it's easier to learn how to punish, how to combo, how to break a throw, but a lot harder to learn how to fight somebody, especially when Tekken has so many different ways of approaching the game, both offensively and defensively. So this video is really exciting for me to present because it tackles that kind of intermediate cloud of confusion. The person who came to me for coaching is Slime, commonly known as Ludwig's friend. He's on the Yard podcast, and he's a Bear and Nina player. Now, we don't go through much character-specific stuff in this session. Instead, we tackle very common themes of confusion. The 3 questions he asked me are, what are the most efficient ways of learning a matchup? What is the knowledge journey of Tekken, like what matters and what doesn't? And how do you beat like internal flowcharting? Now, Slime, is a melee player for a very long time, so he's experienced learning a game and developing expertise, but Tekken has many distractions, many different points of focus, many ways to engage with the game, so he was looking for some refinement. So this is actually a 2-part coaching session. This first part will be those general concepts that I just mentioned, and then part 2, we look at other issues that he didn't ask about, but often come up at intermediate levels as well. We tackle ideas like, how do you look at the screen? You ever talk to a high-level player, they might just say, look at the screen and hit your buttons. What does that actually mean? So I hope to break a bunch of confusion with these 2 videos. Again, 1, what is the most efficient way to learn a matchup? 2, what is the important and unimportant information in Tekken? And 3, how do you beat internal flowcharting? Enjoy the video.
Yo.
Hello, hello. How's it going, man? I see that you're grinding Tekken. That shit's cool.
Yeah, it's really fun.
What kind of goals do you have? Your questions are really, really good, but I'm curious about what your kind of goals or ideas are for your progress.
Shit, I guess a simple one is just like, highest rank with Kuma.
Okay.
Because I don't really go to stuff. I haven't gone to stuff yet, but I mean, I've been playing Melee for 10 years. I have hundreds of Melee tournament sets. So It's definitely like an environment that I understand and like getting good at a game, and not that I'm good, but all the stuff it takes.
Right, the progress or the procedure.
But I think, yeah, just being able to play online is something kind of new to playing a fighting game to me, which is kind of funny.
So yeah, just rank up online, I guess, and just general finding smoother improvement.
I also, you know what a goal is? I don't want to match up against a character and be like, I don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
That's such a bad feeling in Tekken. And then you know what's worse? When you win. You're like, okay, none of us know anything.
In general, closing knowledge gaps and figuring out how to close the knowledge gaps in like a generic way, right? You said using Lily as a framework, but I get the sense that you want more of a like how to build your own map.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, see, first thing, most efficient way of learning a matchup. So the way that I have talked to other people who've coached me and like people who learn the game really fast, they have like a multi-step process, and it's a lot of like fighting experience. The first one, when anybody tries to learn a matchup, is just like learning the block punishes. So like they'll use like a frame data website or go through the punishment training, and then they'll go through the punishable moves. And it's not about memorizing it perfectly. Punishment is not going to be memorized in practice mode, but you're going to just develop visual familiarity with the things that you can get free damage on. It's best to take that immediately into games. So usually the procedure I've followed and seen followed is like you record the move to be punished, you block twice, and then you punish the 3rd time, and then you just move on. With that kind of drilling plus the fight experience, it becomes easier and easier to like get the most out of the in-game stuff that's happening on screen, right? Then after you do some fighting, and you've done the punishes and you've messed up some, you've hit some, then you can start looking at like just what's hitting you. So like you'll start to look at strings, stances, key moves, and then it'll be the same thing. You'll practice punishing it a couple times and then see what comes up in fight experience. And then the last step is you'll start to see like common situations come up. Like maybe you get like pushback trapped, or they do some kind of setup. And then that's kind of like the last layer of stuff. But the more that you get the annoying initial stuff out of the way, the faster you can get to developing stuff that you can only really learn and experience, right?
Yeah,
so,
you know what was funny? I got frustrated. So what I started doing when I was playing ranked, which is also good to be able to go back into the replay, is I would get hit by something, not know what it was on block. Then I would take a screenshot, look at the punish, put it in this is a 12 frame Lily punish. And so I could visually like have it as a reference. Then what I learned is the next time I would play a character against them is random, right? Because it's whoever is online.
Right.
And then I would just forget.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, you just have to do this for like a year straight, and then now it's muscle memory.
It's kind of mad annoying, right? Like the obvious answer that some people probably go to is like writing it down, right? So like I have some friends and I do the same thing. We have like a Google Doc or something, and then just like the most basic common thing we want to look at, we'll like peep at like in the loading screen or between like game 1 and 2, assuming you don't get one and done, right? So like for example, a common Lily one, like if you block this, minus 15, right? What I would what I would do is set the bot to do this to you, block it twice, punish it, and then when you go through that practice of practice it, move on, there's the forget phase and then the remember phase, and the forget phase becomes like shorter. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
I still forget punishes to this day because I'm not labbing enough to like commit it. But it's the nature of a game like Tekken where there, like you said, there's so much like breadth over depth, where there's like a million things and you're like, oh my god, I forgot to punish that. That's kind of I think a natural part of it. The one thing that I think does get easier is as you get more familiarity like with one character, there are like patterns that start to show up. A lot of strings that are say like multiple hits, like 3 hits and finish in a mid, are usually unsafe, right? So that is a general rule right away that can immediately inform your punishment. You can just try your 10 frame, you can try your 11 frame, and that's stuff that you can figure out more intuitively outside of just the straight practice part.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of memory, I use a Google Doc. I know other people that do too. And then each time you run like a punishment practice drill, your memory will scale up really fast. It's just one of the more tedious parts.
Is it like, how should you like package that drilling? Should it be like, do I do 10 moves and then block twice, punish once for all of them?
There's a few ways you can go about it. Let me show you how I would do it. So have you seen this website before?
Yes.
Sweet. Okay. So I like to sort the block stuff by minus, so I know it's unsafe. Then I'll scroll down until I get to like minus 10. I tend to skip the stance stuff first. I'll just go for the basic things, right? Do 3 I'm not looking at, back turn I'm looking at, up forward 2. So I would record Lily to do this move, right? And then I do block twice, punish. By fighting Lily enough times, you'll probably start to see moves that come up more often. And then when you do the punishment stuff, like maybe you see this move a lot, maybe you see this move a lot. In your drills, you can streamline it to just look at those.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And the in-game punishment practice thing, I don't think it's not in this online practice mode thing, but those common moves they select are also pretty good.
Okay.
The one thing is if you use the in-game punishment thing, you want to do it on hard mode and select like 1 or 2 at a time. The reason is if you don't do hard mode, it tells you the punish in advance and it like draws your eyes to the menu rather than the animation.
Right. Okay.
Do you have my stream open? Let me quickly go into my own practice mode and just show you what that looks like.
What I'm hearing is that this isn't like even old heads have a problem where they're like, oh, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And they use their intuition to understand that. It's like, all right, let me just try 12 frame punishing.
Yeah. So when I watch like Speed Kicks or like Tony still do punishment practice, that's kind of illuminating and like, oh yeah, they still got to do this shit too. Like one character I don't know very well is Raven, so I'm gonna pull up Raven. And then old heads do have kind of that intuition, like I mentioned, the 3-hit mid string being punishable, or like a 3-hit string that ends in a high being duckable. Like if you can't punish it, maybe you can duck it, maybe you can sidestep it, right?
Yeah.
But let's look at the in-game punishment training. So for me, unless you're a total new beginner, normal mode is pretty useless because it'll tell you what to do, and I'm looking at the menu. I'm not even looking at what he did. I'm just looking for the block animation and then doing this shit. So what I like to do is hard, but if you set it to hard right away, the only way to know how punishable something is like the bottom frame, and then he changes the move right away. So to me, the best way to do this is go 1 by 1. So he does this, I see it's minus 14, I'm going to block twice, and then I'll punish it the 3rd time. Cool.
You know, that's an aspect I didn't really, until I naturally realized after a couple 100 hours, I'm like, I have to pay so close attention to their limbs.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a thing in Melee is often a breakthrough for players is like watch the other character more than you watch yourself.
Right.
I just forgot to do that. And Tekken is just like, you have to look at the other guy so closely, especially for like throws and stuff. And this makes sense because the in-game punishment gives you a lot of other things to look at. Yeah.
It's a blessing and a curse. Like it's cool that we have kind of the Reader's Digest of moves. So I'll pick Kuma and punish some Lily stuff just to give you kind of how I would go about it, and then we can run it together.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool that the game gives you this option and kind of provides you like the key moves that you're probably going to see and punish most of the time. But I think it is also partially a trap because you can run through the whole punishment thing looking at the normal mode, think I can do this, and then get confused when it's in-game and you don't have the animation recognition, which is what you were talking about. I don't even know what Lily moves is going to pick. I'm just going to look. right? And I'm going to actually turn off some of the UI because I don't need to see how much damage I'm doing. I just want to look at the frames. So I can see my opponent's frames in the bottom right, which is what I care about. And then I'll just start the hard mode. So I've selected the first one, hard, let's go. Block ones. Okay, Kuma does forward 2-1. 13. Cool, let's move on. Oops. This is such a horrible user experience. Okay, what is this? -12, I do forward 2-1. -12, I do forward 2-1. That's cool. So now I know that these two are the same. So once I've gone through everything, like I'll do this third one, and then Jesus, hit hard mode. Okay, this is a 2-1, not a forward 2-1, because it's -11. Great. Now I have some variations, right? So the first two, so let's assume I've gone through the whole list already, right? Now if you want to get like more proficient at it, like say like you keep running into Lily's, it's starting to really piss you off, you want to get like really nasty at punishing her, right? So we know these first two were a forward 2-1 punish, and this one was just a 2-1. So why don't I start with the first two and just see two animations that I punish the same way? So one of them is 2 hits, so I don't go too early, and one of them is a single push that I'll recognize and do the same punish. Because this one, if you swing too early, the 2-hit one, you'll get blown up. So I'm gonna... She is insisting on the first one only. There we go. Nice. So I have a little bit of a drill there, and then I can up the complexity by picking one with a different punish. So you'll remember that her down forward 2, I punish with 2-1. The other one I punish with forward 2-1. Thank you, Lily. There we go. Perfect, right? So you can start to build variations of this. And again, you would start by going through everything first. That low is broken. This is a good one to block and punish. Cool. Matterhorn is a big one you'll see from honestly every Lily player. Yep. -21. Down forward 2-1. Boom, boom, right? So this is like level 1, right? Like, and you probably can see by now, like that's what the procedure looks like. It'll take some time, but you're already looking at replays and stuff. So you'll probably get the most out of it, I think. Block twice, punish the third time, move on. Now, this is where I think I'll take a look at your replays, because you'll do these punishes. You'll have an idea of like the free damage you can get. Then you'll get put in a bunch of situations you don't know how to deal with. When that comes up, we want to look at primarily what hit you, because that's kind of the highest efficiency of immediately like winning more. And then we can go farther based on what you start to figure out and what problems other Lily players start to give you.
Yeah, I mean, I think like finding solutions to situations rather than just like raw moves is something I've definitely done. I guess it's the retention.
Okay.
That becomes the hard part, right? There's that Lily game.
Are you comfortable recreating the situations that you get put in practice mode?
I haven't gone that far. I'll usually just play out the situation in the practice mode and take over. And then I'll be like, okay, what if I block? What if like, or you know, this and that, or what if I try to sidestep if I'm playing a different character?
Takeover is really, really strong for the initial exploration, but yeah, I agree that it actually doesn't help with retention very much. Damn, get shit on. Okay, down jump out of that.
So that's actually an adaptation from the Lily I played before. Is they do that low high and then they go into some dumb shit. So I was like, I'll just dick jab.
Yeah. So she goes into back turn stance with +3. So she has options to counter your down jab, but it's a nice default. It's a really annoying default for Lily to deal with, and it works against her 1-1 also. So like what happened here? This is just Lily 101. Like if you give them a second to breathe, sometimes they'll just throw out a hop kick. So fighting Lily can be annoying for that reason, because she has so much control and she has such strong hitboxes that once you finally feel like, all right, maybe I can attack, let me go low. You know, this is a very common Lily thing. And then it's just you would get a forward 2-1 punish if you block it. Yeah, she's really
hop kicks. Okay, I see.
Let's look at this again. She does this. She's +2. Down jab is also decent here. Yeah, against a back turn, down jab is fine. There will be ways she can counter it, and we can deal with it as we see it. Okay. So here's a good...
Yep,
just -2.
And I was like, well, she screamed at me.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so one thing that's a bit weird, and this intuition admittedly has gotten less reliable over time, but to me, this visually looks like a high. 90% of strings that end in highs are safe. Like, I can't tell you a high string that is unsafe. Except, wait, maybe that one? Is the Kuma one unsafe? No, even yours is safe, right? So I think that's a good general rule of intuition. If it ends in high, it's probably safe. Ends in mid, probably unsafe. If it ends in a safe mid, probably steppable or armor, right? Most strings in this game don't have a counter or like have counterplay. All right, and then she's won this round basically off of her hop kick. That was fire. I respect
What
that.
am I? It's late, man. It's late.
So yeah, against a character who's hop kicking, obviously the one thing is like don't go low or just block, but you can also just play quick jabs. Hop kicks are kind of slower, so if you're jabbing and she hop kicks, you get a float combo. That's one of the many solutions you can do.
Yeah, something. I mean, I played a shitload of Nina, and then I went back to Kuma because I am interested in the idea of doing the right thing defensively,
Right.
rather than just like ape offense.
Yeah.
So you'll see me in a lot of these games, kind of like hold a lot of shit.
Yeah.
To be like, all right, let's find a pattern or something.
Yeah. I think that's valid. I think that Tekken 8 makes that really, really difficult until you're fighting somebody with a lot more reason. It's a weird way to say it, right? But like, I don't know if I could come up with a good analogy off the top of my head. But basically, in this game, control is often established through your hitboxes and through your offensive threat. Like, I played a bunch of Tekken 7 this way, and I played this game a lot this way in the beginning, where I would just kind of move around, like, block a lot of things, and try to make you, like, kill yourself. In this game, that's generally a pretty, like, unreliable way to play, unless you are, like, the GOAT of, like, the most optimized option select defense out there.
Okay.
I think holding things when you need to is a good skill. Truthfully, you'll probably get farther by just running your offense, seeing where the holes are, and then learning to defend in those holes, rather than giving your opponent a blank canvas to mix you. Wow, she punished that. Like that whole like the idea of letting your opponent, like Anakin has said before, that like even a toddler can mix you up. So his lesson with that is like, you have to put out threats, you have to put out problems, otherwise even a total noob could figure out a way to kill you, you know?
That's so funny because in Melee, like that gap closes extremely quickly, and like mix-ups don't like happen until way later,
right?
when you're learning. And I think what I'm learning in Tekken, or I mean I've learned it, but what I've struggled to apply or accept is the idea of like unreactable things that anyone can do.
Tell me more about that.
Like lows balance the game, right?
Yeah.
An unreactable low says to you, you cannot hold back forever.
Yes.
Maybe you will have to duck because I can do this 10 times and win.
Yes.
And to me, that is something I have to kind of wrap my head around which sounds kind of weird.
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
In Melee, there's so much movement and ideas that like, there's not an answer like that just raw balances the game, you know?
Yeah. No, I would agree. Like Melee, you like the shield depletes itself, right? So you can't hold shield forever. I think the first maybe like plateau I can think of from like beginner to intermediate is like dealing with somebody dashing back, right? Like learning that you have to overshoot them is probably the first. That is me thinking off the top of my head. I don't have any Tekken comparison necessarily, but like,
no, yeah, that's how it like feels. Yeah. And it's funny that this is my first like actual fighting game, so I'm like learning all these day one concepts.
Yeah.
Through the lens of highs are duckable but safe. Lows are not reactable typically, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you put this all on top of like a matchup spread.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, I just want to make this process of getting better as efficient as possible.
Okay. If I were to ask you about like Kuma's plus frame situations, do you feel super comfortable with those?
Yeah.
To me, and I've been playing with this idea as I try to structure like Tekken 8 learning, the building blocks for me of Tekken are block punishments getting your free damage, throw breaks is denying free damage, right? And then frame traps are the first like solid offense option that asks your opponent, do you know the rules of the game, right? And those three things I think are kind of a good start. And then like a mid-low mix-up, right? Because like you said, lows stop you from stand blocking all day, mids generally give the higher reward. And just from watching you play, like I got the sense you knew. I just wanted to, touch base and see. So let me watch more of what this Lily is doing to you real quick and see if we can come up with more ideas of how to like streamline what we can figure out. So here's a good situation also where one down jab is really good. She has 1-1. She's -6. So down jab actually will hit it guaranteed unless she goes for one of her bullshit options, which is a 1-1-3 that counter hit launches. So this is one of Lily's dumbest mind games that she has. 1-1-3 is launch punishable. So if you block it all the way, you get down forward 2-1.
Oh, okay.
But if you wait for her to finish it, then she's going to be in back turn stance and can play her mix up, right?
I see.
So it's kind of it's like a two-way mix up. Like, do you have the balls to interrupt me, or are you going to take the next mix up? So she does this. Nice. So here's a situation where I think you can make a bit more proactive of a play because you're +3, right? So you basically get a mid-low mix-up of your choice. Like, not everything will work, right? But you'll be able to frame trap certain options. But because you kind of sit for a bit, it lets her go for this hop kick. Like, you run the 1+2, and that's kind of a slower option as well. I think Kuma, especially at earlier levels, you can probably do... What does he got? He has like an armor option. Oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't know.
Actually, I'm glad you looked at this game because that's actually when I stopped autopiloting my fucking bear stance mix-ups. And I was actually like trying to use the whole animal.
Yeah.
But yeah, she still hit me because I wanted that delicious cookie of the 1+2 launch.
Yeah, so I think
flip over.
One thing you can immediately identify is like, is my opponent, like when you run your frame trap situation, so like you have a +3 move here, is my opponent a masher or are they a blocker? You know, are they a ducker? Are they a masher? Are they a blocker? That's kind of the three that you can like immediately go for. Usually the frame trap you can run first because people love mashing in this game. People love mashing in general. They hate defending. So if you run your frame tight offense part and check them for mashing, you'll get way more reward. If you're fighting somebody who's a bit more scared and just like stand blocks or ducks, then you can get the big 1+2. But I think a good default option you can start to explore is like frame trap, see what they do. Right?
Right.
That said, as you get more comfortable, you can also take data in while doing your aggressive option. So your aggressive option here is like, you're going to duck, I'm going to go for the big launch, right? If they mash on you, great. Now you know that you can play a frame trap. Maybe not the immediate next interaction, or you can try it right away and see if they adjust. In this game especially, you're encouraged to try an option and collect data as you go instead of just kind of sitting there and seeing what they can do.
It all happens in motion.
Yeah.
Instead of... You know, it's funny, like, what is it? Back 4-3 with Dragunov, the heat engager?
Yeah.
It's a mid-high.
Yeah.
It feels so fucking good to duck that second hit and launch it for it. And I think I found a love in defense from shit like that, where you, like, figure out the puzzle of them. Yeah. Right? And you didn't have to move, or you just have to move a little bit.
Yeah, like it didn't require you stun locking them mentally or doing a bunch of stuff. You saw what they wanted to do, you understood it, and then you countered it with just your solid defense.
Yeah, I didn't have to risk anything. He just did the same dumb shit. I ducked it. It looks cool because his foot went over my head. Yeah. And now he's taking 90 damage.
Yeah, the duck string dopamine goes crazy. Lily is historically annoying, especially for like really strong defensively minded players. So one thing that she keeps killing you with that we can see just from the replay is like hop kick over and over, right? So the only real answer to this is to just adjust our options so they're not exposed to hop kick, right? Like down jab is exposed, ducking is exposed to hop kick, slower moves are exposed. It's more boring, but you might just have to play a jab here, right? Or just block and punish. It's a lot lamer, it's less cool, but that's kind of what Lily is asking.
There's a satisfaction in knowing they're gonna hop kick and then just blocking it, you know, and being like, don't do that. Spray him with the bottle like a puppy. I think it's just, I guess it's the literal observing with my eyes of a character. Because if I was playing against Kuma or Nina, which are characters I play, I am not confused. Yeah. I don't go, what the hell is that? Because I know all the moves, which is nice. That's my actual goal. Okay. Is to feel the confidence of knowledge that I do with those two characters with everybody.
So with that in mind, I think, yeah, the streamlined method of learning the punishes and then learning the strings and then learning the situations is going to be super key. The dry way of going through the move list, but keeping yourself moving rather than getting locked into looking at one move or situation is probably what you're looking for best. And then like the characters that annoy you the most, look at them the most. Like before you hop into ranked, Speed Kicks used to do 2 characters alphabetically do their punishes before each session, right? And then
Okay.
He would do some stuff after the session as well. For you, you could probably focus on the matchups you see the most, just because, you know, matchup representation isn't the same. Certain character familiarity is easier versus others. Going through Lily's move list and literally just scrolling and watching it play is going to be, I think, pretty helpful, just so you see it more.
Right.
Especially her, because she has a lot of cancels and stances and things like that. She has a lot of really annoying moves with high rewards, so you don't get a lot of like reps in a game.
You know what's funny is you know your throw break video?
Yeah.
I watched that when I started the game, and then it's like I was like, okay, this seems cool, and then I did it for a little bit, and it didn't. I'm not great at breaking throws now because I didn't stick with it. But there's a part in it where early on you're like, just watch him do the throw. Just before you do it, just watch him throw. Don't even try doing it. And I thought that was so. I was like, what? Why? And like 500 hours later, I'm like, oh, I get it. That is part of the mental like link to stop him from fucking throwing you.
Yeah, no, for real. I think it's cool that you see that too, because like I have to explain it sometimes. I'm like, it is really, really important, especially like as you pointed out in the beginning, like the game asks you to look a lot at their limbs, look a lot at their animations to figure out what to do.
I crashed out at Brawl Pro once because I played against a Leo, and I kept getting like this like crazy low launcher, and I was like, what is the game trying to tell me? What is the game trying to say to me? Like, there is an answer to this. And he basically said, if you block it, Leo dies, like a hell sweep or something.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, it took me so long to accept that. I was like, I shouldn't have to do that. They shouldn't be able to unreactable do something. So this is just to say my mind as what sort of like the resistances in my mind in accepting the game and stuff like that.
Have you ever talked to somebody who asked how do you deal with Falco lasers?
Yeah.
And it's like, I think the higher you get, the easier it is to like accept like he's gonna stop my movement. I have to power shield, or like,
right.
You know, the various like I handshake that this is going to happen to me, and if I do and get better at it, it's not the end of the world. That reminds me a lot of your description of how lows work, right? It's like, yes, it is good. The answers are also very workable, right? Like
you're a first year melee player, you get locked down by Falco lasers, you won't blow your shit smooth off your head.
Yeah.
You're like, why is this in the game? What is going on? How is this fair?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sure you've seen the combo damage you can get off of like blocking the low, but one way to look at this game as well is to really lock in not just like, am I getting hit? Is something happening to me? But like the risk reward that the opponent takes on. Is this the low you were talking about?
Yeah.
This fucking shit, dude. But yeah, like if you look at the HP you take 27.
So that's 25 frames. That's actually not bad.
Yeah. Like Koreans will see this, not me.
Yeah.
But I accept getting
down
hit by
to
it.
like 22 frames, and they say that's reactable.
Yeah, and it's both frames and like animation uniqueness, right? So the reason why Leo's is so unique here is they don't really have anything else that does this, right? Like this looks so different from this.
Right.
So that's part of it, and then this is also a low, so it's not. It's part of that. It's animation uniqueness and speed.
I see.
Even without, like, I don't know what combo you get here, but if you get a full down 4-2 combo, you get like what, probably half HP, maybe a little more with heat. So
it's a big deal.
It takes them 3 of these to make up what you get for blocking one of those, right? So that's kind of, I think, a key part in navigating the game. It's not that lows are worthless. It's that calling it out gives you a decent reward too. And it's not like you have to sit there and guess. They have to figure out how to place a 25 frame low around all your fast shit, right? So it's not just mid-low, I'm guessing. It's like, can they get past my keep out? Can they even block my offense, you know?
Right, okay.
And when you combine those things, the low becomes less annoying. And then you have this push-pull between, are they baiting my keep out? Or have they convinced me I need to block and then I get hit low? If somebody's getting a free 50-50 on you, it's good to investigate why you felt like you had to block in that situation. Did they have literal frame advantage? Were they pressuring you with like really fast moves and then you blocked to stop the fast moves? There's like the before and after the mix-up as well.
The context of the 50-50 that you got put in.
Yeah. I used to play, I played Marth, right? And I used to get really fucking annoyed dealing with like Fox when like my back is to the ledge. And somebody just asked me like, why is your back to the ledge? And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. It's
you know? If the low mix up, like it counter hit launches, it hits you, stops you from stand blocking. Why did I feel like I had to stand block in the first place? Or why did I mash something in the first place? And then as you get more comfortable with move lists and situations, that question becomes easier to answer. But it's a good place to start because really, if you watch like high level Kuma gameplay, they're doing a lot of driving, right? There's a lot of this nonsense. So the times that a Leo can actually fit in a 25 frame low is pretty low, you know?
Right.
And same with the Lily. Like Lily was robbing you with the hop kicks, but if not for that, you were actually driving most of the interactions. It's just you eat a hop kick and then you wake up and then you have to guess the mix-ups, you know, things like that.
I see.
Let's see. Let me poke at your other questions real quick, and then we can circle back to anything that you feel like you want to talk more about.
Sure.
So you talked about we talked about knowledge journey, what's important, what isn't, how to retain it. I think things that are not too important that people fall into are like setups, right? So you like there's good easy setups that are good to learn, right? Like maybe you get a tornado here and then there's like a thing that you can do like this and catch their roll. There's a lot of stuff like that and it can win you games, but it won't solve that like confusion issue. You know, like as soon as somebody knows how to block it, you're back to square one. So I think in terms of what isn't important, it's like Okazemi setups beyond like a basic 50-50. Super hyper optimized combos aren't super necessary, right?
I mean, I'm sure you know, but like we are so drawn as beginners to that. You know, Josh in the slam, when he played Brian, he learned the hardest Brian combo like known to man.
Yeah.
He practiced for like 7 hours that day because he's a pro melee. He's a pro melee player.
Right.
He's a grinder. Like, dude, we have to unlearn so much shit.
Yeah, it's kind of like as Marth, you can learn the chain grab, but like this is a shitty example because Marth grabs really easily. But if you're fighting people who never let you even grab them in the first place, you never get to do the shit you practice, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So in terms of what is important, it's like animation recognition of your opponents. And you mentioned that already, so I just wanted to recap. Like, like understanding what limbs they're using, because then you can like go back to the lab, so you can lab it. Is it high, mid, low? Which, again, is getting harder to tell visually as they add more bloat, but that's still, like, I think a valuable thing to try and understand. Is like, if it's a high, can I duck it? You know, is it a mid? Is it unsafe?
You know what was funny? I was streaming the other day, and I was watching a replay against a Raven. He did, like, a 2-kick string, and apparently in Tekken 7, it was a mid-high, but they patched it to a mid-mid in Tekken 8. Ugh. And the heads in the chat were like, it's funny that you're looking at this one right here, right now, because this is the, like... one of the strings that you're like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Just move his leg down.
Yeah. It's a textbook example of why did you change that without changing the animation. And I hate that shit. So my punishment intuition, how I learned when I was first playing like Tekken Tag 2, is I would try my launch punish. And if it didn't work, I would try my jab punish.
So you just went from 100 to 0.
Yeah. Well, like my thought was like, nobody wants to get launched, right? So like if they're doing something and then not blocking this, it's probably guaranteed. If it's not, then they suck and I'll plow through them and then I'll rank up and somebody will eventually block it, right? And then if this didn't work because they weren't blocking, then I'm like, okay, I'll try this, or like just 2-1, right? And you'll die a lot for doing it, but I think in Tekken especially, the try and see what fails will get you to the answer faster than like, let me guess or let me never find out. You know, like there are people who are like, I don't want to die, so I won't go for the punish. If you're in a match that you want to win, try it, see if it works, and then like reinvestigate later in practice mode. I think that's the best, like quick and dirty. Obviously, we have the drill that we talked about now that'll help too. But if all else fails, you can try this and you can start to remember. But it's built on that, like, do you even see what your opponent's doing in the first place? Otherwise, this is just like blind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, this is my quick and dirty recommendation. I don't give it to like everybody, but like I'm pretty sure you'll wield it well. Yeah, retaining it. I use Google Docs. I have a doc per character, and the reason I did that is because when I did one document, it just got too big, so it was taking forever to load. So I just did a doc per character, and then in the loading screen, I would like have like quick things to look at. So like if the Lily's going back turn, you already like had the idea to down jab, right? Like that's a decent note to put in, right?
Your doc is populated with just like text notes.
Me personally, yes, just because I had played the game so long. I don't think there's anything wrong with using images.
Sure.
It's just whatever will probably trigger your memory the best. And then the kinesthetic part too, like you said, if you can find anybody that will like friend you and like practice a matchup with you, that's like the most valuable thing possible if that's available.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we can circle back in a bit, but I wanted to just touch on the combating flowcharts because you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I had a huge problem with this, not just with flowcharts, but with like nerves and like with patterns in my defense as well, not just offense. And really, it's go into games with the full intention of only breaking that. If you recognize a pattern, a flowchart that you have that you're really annoyed with, like say you always do this, and then in the situation, how do I go into hunting bear like this? You always do this.
Your one goal that game is to just not do this. Win or lose, you get blown up, you die to the same thing 50 times in a row. I don't care. It's just stop doing this, right?
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's really the only way. Some people will ask, like, can I do it outside of ranked? Can I do it against a computer? Answer is yes, probably. But realistically, as creatures of habit, the nerves of ranked, or the tension that comes with the stakes, tends to create different kinds of mental pressure. So I always recommend doing it in the area where you want to improve it, right?
Yeah, if you're not willing to put it on the line to improve in the
and
in
I've
the
also
scary
found
spot,
I've also found that people respond differently in quick match when like they don't have points on the line. It feels like playing like poker, even if you put a penny on your like play penny poker, the difference in how people play is night and day compared to like free poker, right? So I think of it the same way. So that concludes the first part of our session. It was like an hour and a half, so I wanted to make sure the video was kind of digestible and that we had a core theme. So if you don't remember, we covered what's the most efficient way to learn a matchup, what is important and unimportant information in Tekken, and how do you beat internal flowcharting. Now, in part 2, we look at slime-specific gameplay, but again, it is tackling very common issues I see at the intermediate level. So please look forward to part 2, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.